QNI71 says, is Magnus stronger than Hikaru in Bullet? Yeah, I think so. I think so, but I'm not certain, to be honest. It's hard to judge. I played Hikaru a bunch of times on the old Internet Chess Club on ICC, which nowadays it seems like nobody uses. So I played him many years ago, and at the time, okay, he was considered sort of the king of Bullet in ICC and that. But Magnus was only ever playing, I think he was only ever really playing from time to time, and on anonymous accounts, so it's hard to judge. So I've played Magnus more recently, um, on over the last maybe 6-7 years or something like this. So it's, for me, it's hard to say. Okay, maybe we'll go for something that I never play, like a King's Indian Defense or something like this. Let's give that a shot. Just to see if we can try and illustrate. I mean, I'm a Grunfeld man, pretty much always when I play like this, or other times I'll play other setups. But I'm not a King's Indian man. But King's Indian is a legitimate opening. So let's give it a shot. And so the idea here is black plays f5. Black is preparing f5. White himself would play c5. King's Indian is a very romantic opening. You're sort of giving white a space advantage. You're giving white a big queenside advantage and a break available to him. And you're kind of saying, look, my queenside will burn to the ground, but hopefully your king side will burn to the ground. And at the end of the day, checkmate ends the game. So this is I think the reasoning. The problem is I know very, very little about the King's Indian. So because it's just never been in my repertoire, and I've never even really played mainline against the King's Indian. So I have to be very careful here. Maybe, for example, I should have played h6 in order to avoid knight g5, knight e6 ideas, or maybe knight g5, knight e6 ideas are absolutely fine to allow. These are the kind of things that I just don't know. But in this case, we'll go h6 now, so that this is not an option. The bishop on b2 feels strange. In my experience, that bishop usually stays on the c1. In my limited experience, the bishop usually stays on the c1, h6 diagonal. And my idea is very basic. It's the King's Indian is an opening that I think appeals to a lot of kids, because it's an opening where you, in many, many situations, get to attack. F4, g5, h5, g4. Push, sack a piece, checkmate. This is what kids very often like to do. But at the same time, it's also an opening that can be played at the very highest levels. So it's sound, it's nice. It's an opening that you can have, like, opening for life. So yeah, what is my opponent thinking about here? Maybe c5 is the plan. That is what he plays. c5, trying to make some kind of progress on the queen side. Makes sense. And now my question is, should I go something like knight f6 and put some pressure on e4? Or should I play f4 and just say, let's go. Let's go for the attack. It's hard to say when you are not a King's Indian player. It is very hard to say. The knight on e8 also, of course, it's passive, but it's nice that it kind of holds the fort on the queen side. So a big part of me just wants to play like this rather than knight f6. Okay, you know what? Let's do it. It's the last game of the evening, and we'll push some pawns and see what happens. That is the professional approach. Push and pray, we say. I'm not sure that we actually say that, to be honest, but push and sip some of your coffee. yeah, so with the move f4 anyway, the threat is just g5, h5, g4, and make a break against this pawn on h3. That's the, well, more so than the threat, that's just the plan. And the only benefit that I see of leaving the knight on e8 is that I want to take like this. And, you know, it's funny, right? But I've heard some King's Indian players joke about something like this, that it's like, you might say, oh, what about your bishop and your rook? They're undeveloped. You need to do something about that, don't you? And you say, no, the bishop and the rook are perfect. This rook here will, you know, sacrifice itself against an attack in some way. You know, some knight will come in and it'll distract it. It genuinely, this often happens in King's Indian, where the knight ends up taking this rook, or the rook gives itself up for some piece. So the rook is here just to burn alive, basically, while this bishop here will go on a bit of a suicidal mission there on h3, just chop and hopefully break down, you know, break down the last of the white defenses. So actually, you don't need to worry so much about your queenside development. They'll take care of themselves in due course. They have a bit of a sad, bit of a tragic fate to these pieces in the King's Indian many times. So here he's gone knight h2. Clearly, he is looking to hold off the black offensive by preempting the fact that black wants to break on the g4 point here. And and so he'll play knight h2 in order to cover this square. One other thing that he might do is he might throw in a bishop on g4 and exchange these guys. And as I just explained, we want this bishop to throw itself here potentially in some situations. So I'm going for h5 first, and then maybe knight f6, maybe queen e8, then g5, so that this point is supported, you see, by the queen, then queen on g6, then g4, and eventually, you know, 20 moves from now, finally this glorious bishop takes h3 in some situations. Of course, I'm joking, but not completely joking. Okay, he goes g4. This shouldn't be correct, this approach, and to play such a move here, I'm winning a pawn. And I think I can just go ahead and take. So the character of the position has potentially changed. It's not clear that I'll be able to attack, although, you know, his kingside is still a bit weak, so I may be able to actually still generate an attack at some point. He could potentially take here, pawn takes and queen takes, but I don't think I'm concerned, because this is a very common situation where a lot of less experienced players, they're quite concerned. They say, oh, if he sacrifices here, I'll have absolutely no material. I'll have no pawns in front of my king. And that would be true. You'd have no pawns, but you would have quite a lot of minor pieces hovering around the king side. So it shouldn't work in general. In this case, the only thing that would worry me about bishop takes, pawn takes, queen takes, and moving my bishop back is after rook f1, he's got this annoying check on f7, which I feel I can't do so much about. So yeah, so after so after queen takes, maybe I need to find something else like queen here to c8, so that I keep this bishop protected. But then he has the move g4, which is quite annoying actually. Suddenly my bishop on h3 is stuck. So actually, you know, I started by saying that I really doubt that he can take this pawn, and that people worry about these things. But this might be an exceptional situation. After queen takes, I feel like I have to go bishop d7, and then after rook f1, what is worrying me is, you know, if I go something like knight g7, he goes queen f7 check, king here, then he can go, so he has done it. Then he can go, so let's see, takes this position, bishop d7, rook f1, knight g7 feels like the move. And then he has one check here on f7, king here, let's say, something like that. And then he can even go rook f6, something like this. And there I would have the move knight g8. Excuse me. And after rook g6, I guess I would have a move like bishop e8. It's certainly a little bit more messy than I would want, but at the same time, that piece is quite attractive. If knight g4, I need to be in a position that I can take it. If c6, trying to distract me, I think first of all I can take and then put the bishop on e6, but I can also first throw in a move like knight g7. If I can do this, I think I'm going to be quite happy. After rook here, knight here, I really think only this check, because that gains time for him, makes sense. Then I go king h8. Although maybe king h7 is the better move. This I don't know. King h8 is what I had been looking at initially. But yeah, maybe king h7. King h7, I'm on a light square. It feels like it makes quite a lot of sense to put the king right here. No, but I don't like that because check, king here, knight f3. Knight f3, and suddenly knight g5 is coming in with tempo. And if I move knight g6, then king g2 and rook h1 stuff. So queen f7, king h8. Then if he goes knight f3 with the intention of king g2 in here, then I should have some kind of move like queen e8. Queen e8 should be fine. Kicking the piece away. And I just need to regroup. At the end of the day, these pieces for now are quite out of the game. If the bishop was here already, I would be a lot more hesitant about playing the way I'm playing. But I feel like all my minor pieces, I have no pawn shelter, but I do have 4 minor pieces that are trying to establish some kind of defensive configuration against the queen and the rook. So it feels like, it feels like should be okay. And this move was the one that I was thinking I could meet with knight g8. So the knights are, in theory, quite good defenders, and he doesn't have any squares available. If rook f4, ideas pawn takes. It's true that this diagonal is open, this diagonal here, but it doesn't seem like he can really use much of that diagonal because my knight is overprotected on g7. If he goes rook g6, my idea there was just bishop e8. That should win some material. So he can't go there, he can't go there. I think he just has to go back somewhere. Probably the best square to go back is f2, since then he has some ideas revolving around this. I don't know. Sorry guys, I'm again a little bit tired today, so apologies if that. I don't know. I feel like you can always sense these things, or you can always feel them, right? When a presenter is a little bit tired, you can either feel it in terms of their play, the quality of their play, or just their commentary and things like this. Okay, so my opponent is thinking and eventually goes to f2, which makes sense. He wants that rook h2 possibility. And I'm just going queen e8. And now he actually goes for the exchange. I have to take with the rook so that this bishop is defended. Really surprised with exchanging the queens. He does have the f3 square. It's true that after something like even queen h5 or anywhere at all, queen g6, I guess, probably objectively queen takes queen is best. But it's a surprising move because, once you play like that, it's hard to believe that you're going to have many attacking options. In fact, part of me just wants to grab this pawn. and argue that I'm not so concerned by the fact that this guy is a little bit undefended. Now that this square is available, I'll go knight f6. Threatening to take. He can take here, but I'll just take. Rook takes, and I'll go bishop e7 and argue that there isn't any major attack. Although I'm not a huge fan of this move in hindsight, because why upset things? These pawns were really doing a great job of keeping this bishop and the knight out of the game, and now I've allowed these kind of combinations. I don't think that the combinations work, but it's just one of those spots like why do this to yourself? For example, he can even take here. Like maybe he could have taken king takes, moved the knight. No, I guess not. I had bishop f6, but still, these are complications that perhaps just should not be allowed. Okay, so the attack doesn't work out in the end. We can take a very quick look and see with the engine if there was anything to the attack in the first place here. Takes. Yeah, so the engine actually says position is approximately equal, but it doesn't hate bishop takes h5. Actually, it considers it as one of the top moves in this position. And he says you have to take the piece, but interestingly, after bishop d7, I was quite optimistic about my chances here. Engine doesn't think it's such a huge advantage, although now it is jumping up in Black's favor quite substantially. So I think, yeah, overall the engine says it's not a great idea, but with best play with knight g4, takes, knight g7, king g2, something like this, queen here, rook h1, here, queen h3. Somehow it's arguing, although even here the evaluation is starting to spike in Black's favor as Black does manage to coordinate and save himself. The way the game went here, White, after rook f6, he lost a lot of valuable time. The point is knight g8. Anything else, if knight g8 isn't an option, White actually would be winning. But knight g8 covers h6, and it's nice when you can defend and attack at the same time. And then, queen e8, challenging the queen. And as I said, queen takes d8. Computer does consider it maybe the best move in the position to exchange the queens over going back. But from a human perspective, going back at least would have kept chances to win. So this was a bit of a mistake. And the engine again, d takes c5, says that's one of the best moves in the position. Doesn't dislike it at all. But from a human perspective, had I spotted this king h7 idea, I think it's a much smarter practical decision. Just put your king on g6 or leave it here. There are very few checks available, but probably you're going to go here, be able to bring your knight into the game, coordinate your pieces, consolidate your piece advantage, and win, rather than go d takes c5 and weaken e5 and potentially open up this bishop. But overall, it seems like nevertheless White didn't actually have any chances, even if some complications were allowed.